Welcome to the road to 1 million US dollars. Let's get right into the Bitcoin chart for today, starting on this 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin, because after getting this big move to the downside, Bitcoin is right now trading inside this big level of support, sitting from about 62.4K all the way down to 60,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Now, as I talked about in recent videos, as soon as we lost 62K, right after that, we immediately saw a move down to the bottom of this level of support at about 60,000 US dollars. So I'm happy that that played out as expected. And after that, we saw some choppy sideways price action as the RSI on the lower time frames was basically resetting back up to around this 50 level here. And yes, even the 4-hour RSI was in deep oversold territory here, which is currently also in the process of resetting potentially back up to this 50 level here. And the way the RSI resets is either by some choppy sideways price action or potentially some bullish momentum in the short term. Although one thing we should be paying attention to in the charts right now is this descending trend line for Bitcoin that it currently looks like we are getting rejected from, although do keep in mind that we have some time left before this candle closes. And even though we are in this big level of support, so long as we do not break above this trend line here, then basically we are just going to keep making lower highs and lower lows in the Bitcoin price, even if this RSI is already in oversold territory. So that is just something to watch out for here. The key level to break out of right now is about 62.4K to potentially start making another move back to the upside. And in terms of other resistance to pay attention to, we should expect some short-term resistance right here at about 64.3K, roughly speaking, with above that this big level of resistance sitting from 65,000 all the way up to 66,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Besides that, we should take a look at some Fibonacci levels here, because currently we are in the process of getting rejected from this Fibonacci golden pocket, sitting from about 62K all the way up to 62.7K. So if you're looking for a first kind of bullish confirmation here, besides breaking out above this descending trend line, another thing to look out for is just closing candles back inside this Fibonacci golden pocket. For example, on the 4-hour time frame, or even better on the 1-day time frame. Although as of right now, as I'm recording this video, basically, this just looks like we are currently getting rejected from this Fibonacci golden pocket, as well as being in this downtrend. So therefore, I am assuming that we are going to continue to go lower here in the Bitcoin price. As you saw in the previous chart, we are inside a big level of support all the way down to about 60K, with right below that the 0.5 Fibonacci level sitting at about 59.5K. So that is also a potential short-term level of support to pay attention to. Now, the next Fibonacci level of support below that is already at 57,000 US dollars. So do be warned if we really break below that 60K level here. Although we should also take a look at these Fibonacci levels here. These are actually drawn from the recent low all the way up to this recent high here for the Bitcoin price. And then again, we are looking for some Fibonacci retracement levels. So on this 4-hour time frame, again, you can see that this bearish divergence is playing out in the charts, which I have been talking about over the last couple of days. Typically, a bearish divergence plays out either by some choppy sideways price action or some bearish momentum in the short term, which is what we are seeing right now. And you can see that we already bounced from this 0.236 Fibonacci level here. Then as soon as we lost that, we fell right to this next Fibonacci level here, the 0.382 Fibonacci level sitting at about 61.2K. And I do think if we break below these lows here once again, it is quite likely that we go to the bottom of that big level of support at about 60K. And here you can see that the 0.5 Fibonacci level is also sitting at 59.5K. So that is another level to pay attention to in the short term here for Bitcoin. Now, if we actually zoom out to the larger time frame here, so this 1-day time frame for Bitcoin, I think it is fair to say that this exaggerated bullish divergence for Bitcoin is now played out. So we saw this massive move to the upside here. Maybe it doesn't look too big here, but we're talking about a 24-25% move to the upside from confirming this bullish signal all the way at about 54K for the Bitcoin price. But after that, we reached the top of this descending channel. And as I always say and have been saying for the past 6 months or so, so long as Bitcoin keeps trading inside this range, it is completely possible for us to go to the top of the range and to go to the bottom of the range as well. So be aware of that. So long as we do not break out of here, it is completely possible that we go back to 50K once again. Now, I know that when we're trading in these levels right here, it seems completely impossible to go back down to that level. But let me tell you guys that over the last 6 months, I've said this over and over again. Even when we were at these lows, I said it is completely possible that we go to the top of the range, and no one believed me. And then when we are at the top of the range and I say we can go to the bottom, no one believes me too. But as far as I'm concerned, this is just a consolidation pattern for Bitcoin that we have just been in for a very long time. Although for now, this simply looks like, yeah, we got a massive run up of about 400% to the upside for Bitcoin. And then obviously, after you get such a massive move to the upside, the Bitcoin price simply needs some time to cool off here. And I do think that eventually we will have seen enough of that, and then eventually we're going to break out to the upside, potentially seeing much higher price levels for Bitcoin after that. Either way, let's get back into the shorter term price action here. So if we take a look at the 2-week Bitcoin liquidation heat map, so the Bitcoin liquidity over the past 2 weeks. And in the case that you are not familiar with this chart, typically the Bitcoin price gets attracted to where there is the most liquidity on this chart. And up until about 2 days ago, most of the liquidity was to the downside here. However, we have now taken out all of this liquidity to the downside, leaving only some liquidity, about $300 million worth of long positions at about 60,000 US dollars for the Bitcoin price. Now, if we actually zoom into the 3-day time frame, this is showing that most of the liquidity is to the upside, for example, at about 64.5K. Although let me be clear that before we can start talking about moves to the upside to levels like this, you need to see those bullish confirmations that I talked about earlier in the video, like this breakout above this descending trend line here for Bitcoin, and seeing this confirmation here of closing back inside this Fibonacci golden pocket and basically reclaiming this as a level of support. If those two things happen, then we can start talking about this liquidity being grabbed. But until that point, we are simply in a short-term downtrend, and therefore it is more likely that we are grabbing the liquidity to the downside first, which again on this 3-day time frame is also sitting at around 60K for the Bitcoin price, just below these recent lows here. Now, I get questions about this Bitcoin liquidation heat map quite frequently. Like, does it actually work or does it actually help in some way? Well, in my experience, it does. It helps me personally, at least. For example, in this 24-hour time frame, you can see that we got a perfect move up to this big level of liquidity here and perfectly reversed from there to now potentially grab this liquidity at about 60.3K for the Bitcoin price. So I like to use these Bitcoin liquidation heat maps as just one additional point of data in my analysis, where after we grab a big level of liquidity, I really like to pay attention to the charts and look for a potential reversal after that, because seeing this pattern here where we take out a bunch of liquidity and then reverse from there is quite common. I see this all the time in the charts here. Now, if you want to learn more about these indicators that I use in my videos and basically just the basics of technical analysis, I highly recommend you go to rt1m.com, which is my website where I created a free trading course where I explain exactly the basics of technical analysis. So if that is something you're interested in, then definitely come check this out. It is completely free. Again, you can find this on rt1m.com, or you simply go to the video description where I left a link to this free trading course as well. Now, lastly, taking a look at the Bitcoin ETF flow tables for today. Yesterday, we saw a net outflow of about $250 million from these Bitcoin ETFs. So we are seeing a major reversal from these massive inflows that we were seeing here last week. And guys, let's just look back at this descending channel here, because we saw these massive inflows, about $850 million worth of inflows in about 2 days. At these highs, okay? So again, we saw a massive spike in Bitcoin ETF inflows at the exact highs here recently. So let me just say this again. We have seen this every single time at these highs. We see massive inflows at the highs and massive outflows at the lows. So if we ever actually go to the bottom of this descending channel once again, and I see massive outflows from these Bitcoin ETFs, much higher than we are seeing at the time normally, then it might be a potential reversal signal for us at that time. but we will see that when we get there. Either way, this has been today's market update. Don't forget to go check out rt1m.com for that free trading course where you can learn about technical analysis. Regardless, if you do end up checking it out or not, thank you for watching once again, and I will see you tomorrow in the next one.